other modes that could be coming or added later to The Last of Us Part 2. So we talked about the multiplayer, that being factions. But what about other modes out there? Are there other modes out there that definitely could fill this void, so to speak, within The Last of Us Part 2, while we are trying to, of course, like when Factions comes out, whenever that might be, I think it could be a huge mode for us, something that could be really exciting. But one thing that lots of people are talking about is, will there be other, DLC that comes out for The Last of Us Part 2? Or will it be, free to play content? I will say this, I hope that the factions, the multiplayer mode within The Last of Us Part 2, I'm hoping that that is free to play. And I've already stated that I would love it to be free to play, because then that would just draw in more people to playing The Last of Us Part 2. It would get all kinds of people to at least try it out, right? And if you had, the way that they can make money off of it would be through microtransactions and such, which is justified because it's free to play. But if they don't decide to do that, the other modes that they could bring out, guys, I'm hoping that they add more than just factions. Even if, factions has, there's multiple modes there or something, who knows? But I think I would personally really like to see other modes, even like PvE elements, right? I'd love to see where, you could play with your friends and go up against waves and waves of enemies, waves and waves of clickers and things of that nature, kind of like Gears of War. I think that would be really cool. I would love to see modes like that. I'd also love to see some other free-to-play modes, right, where you can play co-op with your friends, or you want to play multiplayer online and play in factions. I think that the experience with The Last of Us Part 2 is so good from a story perspective, but from a multiplayer perspective, co-op perspective, I mean, there's nothing there right now, except we're, of course, waiting for factions. I think that they should continue adding modes along the journey here that is The Last of Us Part 2, up until we get The Last of Us Part 3, whenever that might be, which I'm fully anticipating we're going to get a third game in this franchise, guys, and I'm hoping we do. But as far as like when we might see DLC and, if we see other content outside of that, like free to play content, I would say we're definitely going to see it after factions. Factions should be the first thing coming out for the, next for The Last of Us Part 2, and then moving forward after that, I would say that's probably when we will be able to expect, potentially new DLC, which we probably won't hear on new DLC until probably next year, maybe even 2 years from now. It's hard to say, but I would say probably next year is when we'll see, further DLC or a DLC pack coming, maybe even some free-to-play content. They're going to want us to continue playing this game, guys, that being Naughty Dog, and it just makes sense. They have such a huge audience now of people who are playing the game or like dissecting everything within the game that it only makes sense to continue this thing, like in a major way, whether you're talking DLC, whether you're talking free-to-play content, factions, co-op modes, multiplayer modes, all of those things, they need to continue it. I mean, that there is no debate about it, guys. They got an audience now. Naughty Dog should absolutely take advantage of that, and like so people don't go on to other games. They stick with The Last of Us, continue building the community, continue building what they started here with The Last of Us Part 2 and even The Last of Us Part 1, really continue building that following, the fan base, and over time, right? I think it's very important, and I would love to see that, guys, moving forward. But what do you guys think? Do you think that we'll get some DLC or some free-to-play content here in the next year or so from The Last of Us Part 2, if we're going under the assumption that Factions is the next thing coming from Naughty Dog? Let me know, though, in the comment section down below. Let's have a conversation about it.